Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from IPR365.com and PodWeather.com with the latest on the tropics. You could check out PodWeather.com to see this update, tell people about it, or go to YouTube.com/IPR365, and that is where you will get the updates that we do during hurricane season to the Atlantic visible shot. And you can see we have two systems. We have Tropical Storm Danny, which is nearly stationary right now, sitting right here along 75-76 west. Definitely more west than we originally thought it would be, and it is forecast to eventually make that turn to the north, but we do have watches out for the east coast of the U.S. in anticipation that the center of Danny could actually make landfall. Then in the extreme central and eastern Atlantic, we have this little curlicue down here. This is Invest 94L that I talked to you yesterday about, and I gotta tell you, this one's pretty far south, and the model guidance has shifted a little bit west this morning and this afternoon, even though they were showing earlier that this would try and find the weakness in the high pressure up here and sneak out. This one could be a significant hurricane, say by next week, sometime mid to late week, but it's still too early. We need more organization. But I'll talk about this one as well as Tropical Storm Danny. But first and foremost, of course, is Tropical Storm Danny. Here's the latest on Danny as of 2 p.m. Eastern. It was at 30.1 north, 75.7 west. Winds were only 40 miles an hour, gusting to 50. It's nearly stationary, so it's not moving right now, but it is expected to begin to move a little bit more north-northwest, and then north, and then begin to move north-northeast, then northeast. And see how close it can get there to the North Carolina coast is why it's prudent to watch this. But this system really hasn't done what it was expected to do. 1,007 millibars. It was expected at this time to be closing in on hurricane strength a few days ago, but it really has dealt with a lot of wind shear and has been exposed. It is, however, expected to come very close tomorrow night, Saturday night, to the Cape Cod region here, but there is that cone of uncertainty to where it could impact land further west or it could head further east. Either way, the Canadian Maritimes up here are going to have to deal with it by, say, Sunday and Monday. So this is definitely a force to be reckoned with. How big a force, we don't know yet. Here's the watches and warnings out, and you can see from Cape Lookout to Duck in North Carolina, including Pamlico and Albemarle Sounds. We do have those watches out. And then this little hook here in Massachusetts, Cape Cod, you are under those tropical storm watches with the anticipation that we will have the center of the storm, Danny, continue up in that general direction and be somewhere close enough to have an impact. Whether or not that's directly over North Carolina and Cape Cod or a little bit off to the east, that is still as of yet unknown at this particular time. The model guidance is pretty straightforward to the north and then off to the northeast, but very, very close to land masses. Here's the visible satellite loop of Tropical Storm Danny. There is the exposed weakening vortex of the low-level circulation right there. You know, it's crazy. If convection were over this thing right now, we'd be talking about a strengthening hurricane, but thankfully that wind shear really has kept it lopsided, and even on the lop side of it, it's not looking all that impressive. It's not showing a lot of deep convection just on that eastern side, 40-mile-an-hour winds. There is a chance this could even be a depression, but give it the benefit of the doubt of it being just a disorganized tropical storm. There you can see the Abaco Islands to the south-southwest of the circulation. There's the North Carolina coast to the northwest of the circulation, and it is heading generally in that direction. So definitely be overlooking your plans of action just in case you are going to have to deal with the wrath of Danny, whatever that may be. And it may be more like a nor'easter. During wintertime, we get those nor'easters up there in New England, and they're very spread out. They do have low pressure. Sometimes they even have I-type features that we see in tropical cyclones. But I gotta tell you, remember the perfect storm back in '91? It's systems like that that may only be technically maximum sustained winds of 75 miles an hour that can just cause the most havoc in areas of New England. There's that little curlicue of circulation right there with Danny. There's the flow coming in like this to catch it. It is expected to take that turn, and again, as that line shows, it could actually make landfall on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. But as it begins to interact with this low feature here over the Gulf states and as the flow begins to impact it, it could strengthen more almost in a non-tropical fashion, not to where we're going to get a eye wall and rapid intensification, but rather it just becomes a very strong storm in general, almost like a coastal storm, just with the tropical characteristics to be named Danny. Again, you can see that flow pushing it up should continue in that direction, so be very careful if you live along the coastlines here where those watches and warnings out. Keep tabs on Tropical Storm Danny. Now we have another system out there. This is Invest 94L. It's moving pretty much just straight to the west, maybe a tad north or south of west. You could see the extrapolated motion. This line here, by the way, when you see it on this map, is the current motion if it were 5 days out, which right now would take it right into Bluefields, Nicaragua. Which we've seen as recently as 2 years ago. Category 5 Hurricane Felix took a track much like that, a little bit more to the north. However, it is expected to start to gain some latitude. There will be a weakness in that ridge of high pressure, partly associated with Danny, and that should cause the system to begin to gain some latitude. However, the ridge should rebuild, and many models do show a curve back west. Now, does that mean it curves back west north of the islands and then turns again with another trough coming on down? Or does that mean that we have, like a Hurricane Floyd situation back in '99, to where we will see a curve, but will it go into North Carolina? Will it go into Florida? That's going to be the question if it gets that far down the line to where is something to worry about. With it as weak as it is, it's moving straight west. So if it does start to turn north and then back north west and then west, that could be in the Caribbean, that could be north of the Caribbean in the Bahamas. It is way too early to begin to speculate on that in any fashion. Now here's the satellite imagery over the last few days. I love this loop. It gives us a good idea of how the system came off Africa, lost that latitude, and there is a lot of easterly wind shear. And you can see that again, how the flow right pushing it westward has really caused it to become disorganized. So it's that high pressure pushing it in that direction, so it's easterly wind shear, in contrast to Tropical Storm Danny, which is lopsided to the right because of westerly shear. So we do have the system sitting right in here, this little doodad here, and I gotta tell you, the model's saying that this thing's gonna turn straight north. They might be smoking something right now, because right now that appears to be moving straight to the west. We haven't seen any real indication the last few days of any type of northward movement at all. But as we saw with Bill, once a low-level circulation gets going, there's a chance it could sputter and kind of slow down and then begin to move more in that fashion. But until we see that low-level circulation, and until this is designated a depression or a tropical storm, Erica, we will not see that northward motion, which means the islands and even land masses further down the road need to watch this one carefully. Pretty good wave coming off behind it. This could do something. Got to watch it. It's that time of year. Now the Canadian model does show, and the Canadian hasn't been good with genesis of cyclones, but it's been good with the track. It was right on with Hurricane Bill. And it does show the system pooling off to the northwest and then starting to bend back west. Now from there, is there enough troughiness to where the system would just get pulled back to the north or the northeast, or does it continue spiraling west? And we better hope it doesn't continue spiraling west, because if it does, it could be a strong hurricane. The models are already saying it'll be 100 miles an hour by this time, and if it turns back west, we've seen time and time again with Isabel, Francis, Andrew, Floyd, these systems just strengthen like mad once they get past 60 west, moving straight west under a ridge of high pressure. Whether or not they turn away or hit North Carolina or continue into Florida or the Gulf, they tend to strengthen like crazy with that ridge above them. So we're going to have to watch this one very, very carefully, because it could be quite a hurricane if it develops. The wind shear, you can see there is low wind shear over it now. Danny's actually gotten a little bit more favorable wind shear, but see, these strong winds as the flow comes and picks it up are not going to help it. Caribbean, extremely favorable down here near Jamaica, so anything that might move in this direction should have a very good environment shear-wise to strengthen into a hurricane or a strong hurricane. That's why we have to watch 94L very, very quickly indeed. Now off in the Eastern Pacific,